You have the best seat in the house. One of the Santa Barbara sheriffs told me the night before he thought the verdict was to come down on June 13th, 2005. It had taken 66 days to get the keys to the jury, 45 days for the prosecution, and 15 for the defense. The jury got the case on June 3rd and deliberated for 10 days. Because when Jackson is found guilty, and will be found guilty, I assure you, the sheriff continued. We're going to grab him and take him out of here so fast your head will spin. I wondered why. Because we're afraid there will be such an uproar his brothers will jump the bar, which separates the spectators from the judge, defendant, and lawyer, and cause a riot. I was taken aback by the imagery. I had assumed Michael would be found not guilty. The prosecution's case was weak, at least in my view. The kid, Gamma Rizzo, was not believable, and his mother seemed emotionally unbalanced to me, as did many of the other witnesses. It's funny how the worst moments stand out in a person's mind in a trial like this one, and come back to you when you try to sort it all out. For instance, Star Rizzo testified that Michael walked into a room completely disrobed and aroused that the boys were horrified. Michael, according to Star, said it was perfectly natural and they shouldn't give a second thought. But Kevin testified that Jackson walked into the room disrobed, saw them, and tore back out, suggesting that maybe he didn't know they were in there, and there was no mention at all from Gavin of Michael being of him, saying it was natural. A minor distinction? Maybe, but still, it made me wonder if the boys just forgot to tell their story straight. In fact, so many kids' names were mentioned and so many had testified. One of the questions back from the jury to the judge during deliberations was, which boy are we talking about again? But what if I was wrong? What if Michael was found guilty and sent to prison? He'll never survive it, his brother Jermaine told me. He just never will. It will be the end for him. I was scheduled to be in the courtroom for the verdict on that fateful, excuse me, June 13th, 2005, and then planned to immediately race, excuse me, outside and report the results for the CBS News television audience. The reporter sitting next to me in court that day, who also felt Jackson was not guilty, wondered how they would keep their objectivity of the verdict came in otherwise. I had this awful feeling that I'll break down to tears, one female news reporter, a personal friend, told me, and how that how will that look on TV? But it's Michael Jackson, she reasoned. We have loved him since he was 10, I nodded. In his case, with his kid and his family, I was sure that Michael was not guilty. Most of the evidence, or lack of it, have proved as much to me. Therefore, I was truly scared for him. When I watched him walk slowly and painfully into the courtroom and the day of the verdict, he already seemed like a broken man, and he hadn't gotten even news of his fate yet. Watching him, it was as if he were walking into a gas chamber. He had given up. I wasn't surprised. His dignity stripped from him, his career in a shambles. The humiliation alone would have done in most people, let alone a person as fragile and complex as Michael Jackson. Of course, the verdict was that Michael Jackson was found not guilty of all counts. I sat and watched Michael listen to the not guilty decisions as they were read one by one, and as the drama unfolded, it hit me like a thunderbolt. This man is in so many different kind of drugs. I didn't even think he understands he's being found not guilty. A lot of people are going to be surprised, and you don't need a law degree to understand this verdict, says CNN legal analyst Jeffrey Tubin. It was an absolute and complete victory for Michael Jackson, utter humiliation and defeat for Thomas Niven, the district attorney who had been pursuing Michael Jackson for more than a decade, who brought a case that was not one that this jury brought at all. This one's over. Later in the hallway, there was chaos as the media tried to race out of the courthouse to report the news. Michael's fans went berserk with joy outside, while the media scurried about trying to find their camera and production crews. It was total phenomenon. For a moment, I found myself shoulder to shoulder with Michael. I looked at him, this guy I knew since he was 10. I smiled at him. He forced a smile back, but his expression was vacant, his eyes empty, since he's been vindicated. It should have been one of the happiest days of his life, but it's as if he wasn't even present to enjoy it. For all intents and purposes, Michael Jackson was gone. I went on the air for CBS News to give my first person account of what I got on the courtroom. For me, it was emotional. I barely got through it. As I was making my way through the crowd to do a live shot elsewhere on the grounds, a woman came up to me, a perfect stranger who recognized me. She grabbed me by the arm and pulled me into so she could make sure I hear her over the canopy. Oh no, she said, her eyes wide with alarm. What if he really is innocent? It was as if the thought just hit her and that she needed to express it immediately. And I just happened to be the one standing nearby when it came to her. After all of this, she said, what if he really is innocent? And I looked at the startled expression on her face. I felt a chill shoot down my spine and thought to myself, oh my god, what if he really is?